Every morning, a lonely stray dog faithfully delivers a mysterious set of keys to a local corner shop. When the compassionate owner uncovers the heartwarming reason behind his daily ritual, their unexpected bond changes both their lives forever. Write in the comments where you're watching this video from. Every morning, just as the first light of dawn began to peek over the rooftops of Maple Street, the small corner shop on the corner would come to life. The sign above the door, painted in bright red letters, swayed gently in the cool morning breeze. Inside, shelves were neatly stocked with all sorts of goods, fresh bread, colorful fruits, and rows of candies that caught the eyes of children passing by. Ella, the kind-hearted owner of the shop, always made sure everything was in perfect order. She loved her little store and enjoyed greeting each customer with a warm smile. Her days were filled with the comforting routine of serving neighbors, chatting about the weather, and watching the world go by from her cozy shop window. But there was something unusual about Ella's mornings. Every day, without fail, a scruffy stray dog would appear at her doorstep. The dog was medium-sized with a thick, tangled coat that looked like it hadn't been brushed in weeks. His eyes were big and brown, filled with a mixture of hope and sadness. Despite his rough appearance, there was something gentle about him that made Ella feel she couldn't ignore his presence. The dog would walk up to the entrance of the shop, his paws making soft thuds on the pavement. He carried a set of old, rusty keys in his mouth, which he would carefully place on the doorstep before wandering off into the streets. Ella watched him each morning, curiosity growing with every visit. She wondered why a stray dog would bring keys to her shop every single day. At first, Ella thought it might be someone's lost pet trying to return home, but she had never seen anyone else come looking for the keys. She decided to keep them, placing them on a small table near the door. The keys were old and worn, with intricate patterns etched into the metal, hinting at stories long forgotten. As the days turned into weeks, Ella began to anticipate the dog's visits. Each morning, as she opened her shop, she would see him approaching with the same determined stride. She named him Max, a name that felt right for his loyal and persistent nature. Max seemed to understand that he was doing something important, and Ella admired his dedication. Ella's neighbors noticed the daily visits too. Some thought it was strange, while others felt a pang of sympathy for the lonely stray. Children would often watch Max from the sidewalk, their eyes wide with wonder. Ella appreciated the attention but remained focused on trying to understand Max's mission. One rainy morning, as dark clouds gathered in the sky, Max appeared at the shop door, dripping wet from the downpour. He shook himself vigorously, sending droplets of water everywhere before carefully placing the keys on the doorstep. Ella watched him with concern, her heart aching for the cold, wet dog. She decided to let him inside to dry off, offering him a warm spot near the heater and a bowl of water. Max looked up at Ella with gratitude in his eyes, his tail wagging slightly. For the first time, Ella felt a strong connection with the stray. She gently petted his head, feeling the roughness of his fur beneath her fingers. Max seemed to relax, laying down with a sigh that made Ella's heart swell with compassion. As Max rested inside the shop, Ella couldn't help but think about the keys he had brought. They looked old and heavy, and she wondered if they belonged to someone who had lost them recently. But no one in the neighborhood had reported missing keys, and Ella couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Max's actions than just delivering lost items. The next morning, the rain had stopped, and the sun shone brightly in the clear blue sky. Max arrived at the usual time, as if he never missed a day. He placed the keys on the doorstep once more, and Ella picked them up, feeling their weight in her hands. She decided to keep them safe, hoping that one day she might understand why Max was so insistent on bringing them to her. Days continued to pass, and Max's routine remained unchanged. Each morning, he came with the same set of keys, and Ella saved them in a special box on the counter. She started to look for clues that might explain his behavior. She examined the keys more closely, noticing that some of them had unique shapes that could match specific locks. Ella decided to visit the local locksmith, Mr. Thompson, to see if he could identify the keys. Mr. Thompson was an elderly man with a wealth of knowledge about all things related to locks and keys. He listened carefully as Ella explained the situation and examined each key meticulously. After some time, Mr. Thompson looked up with a thoughtful expression. "These keys are not ordinary," he said slowly. "They look like they belong to an old house, maybe even a historic building in town. There's a place nearby that has been empty for years, ever since the family moved away. It's been abandoned for a long time." Ella's curiosity deepened. She thanked Mr. Thompson and left the shop with a new sense of purpose. She decided to visit the abandoned house, keys in hand, to see if there was any connection to Max's daily visits. The house was situated at the end of Maple Street, surrounded by overgrown weeds and vines that crept up the sides of the once grand structure. As Ella approached the house, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The door was locked, and the keys she held seemed to fit perfectly. She inserted one of the keys into the lock, and with a gentle turn, the door creaked open. Dust filled the air, and the floorboards groaned under her weight as she stepped inside. The house was eerily quiet, with sunlight streaming through the broken windows and casting long shadows across the rooms. Ella walked through the empty halls, feeling a sense of history and sadness in the air. She reached the living room, where she found old photographs scattered on a table. The pictures showed a happy family, smiling and laughing together. Ella wondered who had lived here and what had happened to them. As she explored further, Ella found a small box hidden under a loose floorboard. Inside were letters and more keys, each one unique and clearly important. She carefully read through the letters, discovering they were from a young boy named Tommy, who had lost his family during a difficult time. The letters spoke of his longing to return home and his hope that someone would help him find his way back. Ella realized that Max must have a connection to Tommy and his family. She felt a deep sense of empathy for the stray dog, understanding that Max was trying to help Tommy find his home. The realization touched Ella's heart, and she knew she couldn't ignore Max's daily efforts any longer. Returning to her shop, Ella decided to create a special place for the keys, hoping that by preserving them, she could honor Max's dedication and perhaps uncover more about Tommy's story. She placed the box of keys on a shelf, alongside pictures of the old house, and made a promise to herself to help Max in any way she could. That evening, as Ella closed up the shop, Max approached her once more. He placed the keys on the shelf, looking up at her with eyes that seemed to say, "Thank you." Ella knelt down and gently stroked his fur, feeling a bond that went beyond words. She knew that together they could solve the mystery of the keys and bring peace to both Max and the memory of Tommy's family. As the days turned into weeks, Ella and Max worked together to piece together the story behind the keys. They visited the old house frequently, searching for any clues that might lead them to Tommy or his family. Ella reached out to neighbors and local historians, gathering information and learning more about the history of Maple Street. One sunny afternoon, Ella received a letter in the mail. It was from someone claiming to be Tommy's aunt, who had moved to another state years ago. She explained that Tommy had gone missing shortly after the burglary at his house and that they had never found him. The letter included a photo of Tommy with Max, taken just days before he disappeared. Ella felt a surge of hope. She shared the news with Max, who wagged his tail excitedly as if he understood the significance. Together, they continued their search, determined to find answers and bring closure to the story that had touched their hearts. As winter approached, the cold weather made Max's daily trips more challenging. Ella worried about his safety and decided it was time to seek help from the community. She knew she couldn't do it alone and hoped that others would understand the importance of Max's mission. With the help of her neighbors, Ella organized a small search party to look for Tommy or any signs of his whereabouts. They spread out across the neighborhood, checking places they thought Tommy might have gone. Days turned into weeks, and their search seemed to hit a dead end. But Ella refused to give up. She believed that Max's unwavering dedication would lead them to the truth. Each morning, she greeted Max with renewed determination, knowing that their bond was the key to unlocking the mystery. One chilly morning, as snow began to blanket the streets, Ella noticed something different. Max arrived at the shop with a sense of urgency, placing the keys on the doorstep more carefully than ever. Ella felt a chill run down her spine, realizing that they were closer to discovering the truth. She followed Max's lead, retracing their steps to the old house. This time, Max didn't just place the keys on the doorstep, he led Ella to a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside, they found a small, forgotten room that had been sealed off for years. The room was empty except for a single photograph of Tommy and his family, smiling together once more. Ella felt tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at the picture. She understood that Max had been trying to bring Tommy's family back together all along. The keys were not just pieces of metal, they were symbols of hope and love, bridging the gap between past and present. With a newfound sense of purpose, Ella decided it was time to reach out to authorities and animal rescue services. She knew that Max deserved a safe and warm home, especially as winter's grip tightened. She wanted to ensure that both Max and Tommy's family could find peace and happiness. As Ella made the call to 911, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and hope. She explained the situation, detailing Max's daily visits and the discovery they had made at the old house. The dispatcher listened patiently, promising to send help as soon as possible. Max sat beside Ella, his eyes filled with trust and loyalty. Ella felt a surge of gratitude for the stray dog who had brought so much meaning into her life. She realized that their journey was far from over, but together, they had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As night fell on Maple Street, Ella and Max sat by the shop window, watching the snowflakes dance in the moonlight. They had formed an unbreakable bond, united by a shared mission and a deep sense of compassion. Ella knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, guided by the love and hope that had brought them together each morning. And so, as the stars twinkled above, Ella felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that Max's actions had not been in vain and that their friendship had the power to change lives. With a heart full of determination and a loyal dog by her side, Ella was ready to uncover the truth and bring closure to a story that had touched them both so deeply. Ella stood behind the counter of her small corner shop, watching the world go by through the large front window. The shop was cozy, filled with the comforting smells of fresh bread and brewed coffee. Shelves lined the walls, stocked with everything from colorful candies to everyday groceries. Ella loved her shop. It was her little slice of the neighborhood where everyone felt welcome. One chilly autumn morning, as golden leaves danced outside, Ella noticed something unusual. A scruffy stray dog with a soft, brown coat and big, hopeful eyes approached the shop. The dog walked slowly, carrying a small bunch of old, rusty keys in his mouth. Ella watched as the dog carefully placed the keys on the doorstep before wandering away into the bustling street. Curious, Ella picked up the keys. They were old and slightly bent, with no obvious markings to show where they might belong. She glanced back at the spot where the dog had left them, but he was already gone, disappearing into the crowd of people and cars. Ella felt a pang of sympathy for the dog. She wondered why a stray would bring keys to her shop every day. The next morning, Ella saw the same dog again. Max, as she began to call him, trotted up to the shop, keys in his mouth, and placed them gently on the doorstep. Ella greeted Max with a warm smile. "Good morning, Max," she said softly. The dog wagged his tail slightly, looking up at her with those big, trusting eyes before turning to leave once more. Ella decided to keep the keys for now. Each day, Max returned with the keys, and Ella stored them safely in a small box behind the counter. She started to notice the little things about Max. He always came at the same time each morning, rain or shine. His coat was a bit dirty from wandering the streets, and he seemed tired but determined. As the days passed, Ella's curiosity about the keys and Max grew. She began to think about where the keys might lead. Could they open a special door or a hidden treasure? The mystery of the keys made Ella feel connected to Max. She wanted to help him, even though she didn't know why he was bringing the keys. One afternoon, Ella sat at her counter, sipping her tea, and watched Max from the window. She saw him waiting patiently outside, looking up at her shop with hope in his eyes. Ella felt a tug at her heart. She couldn't imagine what Max might be thinking or why he was so insistent on bringing the keys every day. She decided to learn more about the stray dog story. Ella began to ask her neighbors about Max. She spoke to Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly lady who lived next door, and Mr. Thompson, the friendly barber from down the street. Both neighbors had seen Max many times and shared stories about him. They said Max used to belong to a family who moved away, and since then, he had been wandering the neighborhood, searching for something or someone. Hearing this, Ella felt even more compassion for Max. She realized that Max might be trying to find his way back to his old home or searching for a familiar place. The keys could be a clue to where he belonged. Ella's heart ached for the lonely dog who kept coming back to her shop day after day. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with shades of pink and orange, Ella decided to do something special for Max. She prepared a cozy spot outside the shop with a warm blanket and a bowl of water, knowing that the nights could get cold. As she arranged everything, she thought about how much Max must miss having a home and someone to care for him. The next morning, Ella found Max waiting as usual, keys in his mouth. This time, instead of just taking the keys, she knelt down and gently petted his head. "You must be tired, Max. Come inside and rest for a while." Max looked up at her, as if understanding her kind words, and hesitated for a moment before allowing her to guide him into the warmth of the shop. Ella sat down and stroked Max's fur, feeling a deep connection with the stray dog. She could see the gratitude in his eyes, and it made her heart swell with kindness. Ella knew she had to help Max find out why he was bringing the keys every day. She decided to keep a journal, writing down each day's visit and any new observations about Max's behavior. As days turned into weeks, Ella and Max developed a special routine. Max continued to bring the keys every morning, and Ella would greet him with a smile and a kind word. Sometimes, she would give him a small treat or let him lie by the cozy spot outside. Ella began to feel that Max was not just a stray dog but a loyal friend with a mission. One day, Ella noticed something different about Max. He seemed more eager, almost excited, as he approached the shop. Instead of just placing the keys on the doorstep, he pawed at the box where Ella kept them, then looked up at her with a hopeful expression. Ella felt a surge of determination. She knew it was time to understand the true reason behind Max's daily ritual. Ella decided to spend more time observing Max. She watched how he interacted with other people and animals in the neighborhood, hoping to find clues about his past. Max was friendly, always wagging his tail when someone approached, but he never tried to run away. It was clear that Max had a purpose, a reason that was deeply important to him. One chilly evening, Ella sat by the window, writing in her journal about Max's behavior. She thought about the stories her neighbors had shared and wondered if there was a connection between Max and the keys. Ella knew that keys were used to unlock doors, to open homes, and to keep things safe. Could Max be trying to unlock something important? As Ella pondered these thoughts, she felt a sudden realization. What if the keys belonged to someone who was missing, or to a place that needed help? The idea made her heart race. Ella decided that she needed to find out more about the keys and where they might lead. She felt a sense of urgency to help Max, who had shown so much patience and loyalty. The next morning, Ella decided to ask Max if he could lead her somewhere. She waited until he arrived with the keys and then gently held out her hand, hoping he would understand her intention. Max looked at her for a moment, as if sensing her need, and then took the keys from her hand with his mouth. He picked up the keys again and trotted towards the back of the shop. Ella followed Max outside, watching as he walked confidently down the street. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, unsure of where Max would take her. Max led her to an old, abandoned house at the end of the block. The house was overgrown with ivy, and the windows were dark and dusty. It looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. Max stopped in front of the house and placed the keys on the front step. Ella approached the door and noticed that the keyhole was rusty but still intact. She took a deep breath and inserted the keys into the lock. With a bit of effort, the keys turned, and the door creaked open. Inside, the house was dark and silent. Dust floated in the air, and spider webs decorated the corners of the rooms. Ella felt a chill run down her spine but continued to move forward, guided by Max. They walked through the empty hallways until they reached a small, cluttered living room. In the center of the room stood an old photo album on a table. Ella picked up the photo album and began to flip through the pages. The pictures were faded, but she could see a happy family, a father, a mother, and a little boy playing in the yard with Max, the same dog she had been meeting every day. Ella's eyes welled up with tears as she realized the connection. Max was trying to bring her to the family's old home, to share his memories and perhaps find closure. As Ella sat there, holding the photo album, she felt a deep sense of empathy for Max. She understood now that Max had been searching for his family, hoping to reconnect with the people who loved him. The keys were not just random objects, they were a symbol of his unwavering loyalty and hope. Ella decided to make it her mission to find out what had happened to the family in the photos. She contacted the local police and shared the information she had discovered. Together, they began to investigate the history of the abandoned house and the family that once lived there. Ella felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that she was helping Max find the answers he had been seeking for so long. Days turned into weeks as Ella and the police worked to uncover the truth. They discovered that the family had moved away suddenly, leaving behind the house and Max. The little boy, Tommy, had been especially close to Max, and the sudden departure had left the dog heartbroken and lost. Ella felt a profound sadness for Max, who had never given up hope of reuniting with his beloved family. One morning, as Ella watched Max arrive with the keys, she felt a surge of determination. She knew that finding Tommy and his family was the key to solving the mystery. Ella reached out to the community, spreading the word about Max's story and the missing family. People shared their own memories and offered to help in any way they could. Finally, after much effort, Ella received a call from a distant relative of Tommy. They had been searching for any information about the family and were overjoyed to hear from Ella. They arranged a meeting, and soon, the family was reunited with Max. Tears of joy streamed down Ella's face as she watched Max run to his new family, tail wagging furiously in happiness. The day Max found his family was filled with laughter and love. Ella felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had played a part in bringing Max back to the people who cared for him most. The bond between Ella and Max had grown stronger through their shared journey, built on kindness, empathy, and a mutual desire to help. As Max settled into his new home, Ella reflected on the incredible journey they had shared. She realized that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the most meaningful connections. Ella felt grateful for Max's presence in her life, knowing that their friendship had brought warmth and joy to both of them. Ella continued to run her corner shop with the same compassion and care, always remembering the stray dog who had taught her the true meaning of loyalty and love. Max's story became a beloved tale in the neighborhood, inspiring others to reach out and help those in need, just as Ella had done for her faithful friend. Through her kindness and determination, Ella had not only solved the mystery of the keys, but had also found a lifelong friend in Max. Their hearts were forever connected, proving that even the simplest gestures can create bonds that last a lifetime. Ella stood behind the counter of her cozy corner shop, watching the morning sun cast long shadows across the pavement. Outside, Max the stray dog approached once again, his paws patting softly on the sidewalk. Every day without fail, Max carried the same old, rusty keys and placed them gently on the doorstep before wandering away. Ella had been puzzled for weeks. Why did Max bring these keys every single day? Determined to find out, Ella decided to take action. She wanted to understand Max's mysterious behavior. After closing up the shop for the day, she rummaged through her drawer and found an old camera she had bought for her birthday but never used. It wasn't very fancy, but it had a recording function. Ella set the camera up near the entrance, making sure it would capture Max's daily routine. That evening, Ella sat in her living room, the camera blinking quietly on the table. She couldn't sleep, her mind buzzing with questions about Max. What was he trying to tell her? Why the keys? She sipped her tea, glancing occasionally at the camera, hoping to catch any movement. The next morning, as the first light of dawn peeked through the windows, Ella rushed to the camera to check the footage. Her heart raced with anticipation. The video showed Max walking up to the door, placing the keys down carefully, and then doing something unexpected. Each evening, after leaving the shop, Max would dig near the keys, pawing at the dirt with surprising determination. It wasn't just a simple burying. Max seemed to be trying to hide something important. Ella watched, captivated by the footage. Max's actions were consistent and purposeful. It was clear that these keys meant a lot to him, but why? She rewound the video several times, trying to catch any detail she might have missed. Max always made sure the keys were placed in the same spot and that his digging was thorough. Curiosity growing, Ella decided to follow Max after he left the shop one evening. She wanted to see where he was taking the keys. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, Ella quietly stepped outside, careful not to startle him. She watched as Max took the keys and trotted down the street, his ears perked up and tail wagging slightly. Max led Ella to the edge of the neighborhood park, a place Ella knew well. There was an old oak tree near the playground, its branches stretching wide and providing shade on warm days. Max approached the tree and began to dig again, just like he did in the video. Ella knelt down beside him, her eyes following his every move. Max worked tirelessly, his paws moving dirt aside with determination. After a few minutes, he stopped and sniffed the ground, as if sensing something buried beneath. Ella felt a mix of hope and sadness. What was Max looking for? She reached out to touch his fur, feeling the rough texture beneath her fingers. Max looked up at her, his eyes full of trust and longing. Ella decided to dig with Max together. They carefully moved the dirt away, uncovering an old, weathered box. Her heart pounded as she lifted it out of the ground. The box was small and worn, with a rusty latch that squeaked when she opened it. Inside, Ella found a collection of letters and photographs, all yellowed with age. Each letter was tied with a faded ribbon, and the photographs showed a happy family and a young boy playing with a dog that looked just like Max. Tears welled up in Ella's eyes as she realized the significance of what they had found. These were Tommy's letters and pictures. Tommy had been the boy who owned Max before he disappeared during the burglary years ago. The letters spoke of their adventures together, the promises they made, and the hope that one day they would be reunited. Ella looked down at Max, who sat patiently beside her. It was clear now that Max had been searching for something precious, something that connected him to his old friend Tommy. Each day, by bringing the keys and burying them near the oak tree, Max was trying to find a way back to the past, to the memories he cherished so deeply. Ella felt a surge of compassion for the loyal dog. She gently lifted Max into her arms, feeling his warm body relax against her chest. They had formed a special bond over the past few weeks, and now, with the mystery unraveled, Ella knew she had to help Max in any way she could. She decided to take the letters and photographs home, knowing that they held the key to understanding Max's true purpose. As she walked back to her shop with Max by her side, Ella felt a sense of hope and determination. She wasn't going to let Max's story end in sadness. Together, they would find a way to bring closure to the past and give Max the happy ending he deserved. Back in her shop, Ella carefully placed the letters and photographs on the counter, arranging them so she could read each one. The letters revealed a deep bond between Tommy and Max, showing how Max had always been there for Tommy, especially during the difficult times after the burglary. The final letter was the most poignant, written on the day of the break-in. It spoke of fear, loss, and the hope that Max would keep Tommy safe no matter what happened. Ella realized that Max had never given up on Tommy. Even after all these years, Max's heart was still searching for his beloved friend. She knew she had to act quickly. Winter was approaching, and Max was still a stray, vulnerable to the cold and hungry. Ella couldn't imagine leaving him to fend for himself any longer. She decided it was time to call for help. But who could she reach out to? The letters mentioned Tommy's family, but Ella wasn't sure where they were now. She thought about the police, hoping they might have records or information about the burglary and Tommy's disappearance. With Max sitting quietly beside her, Ella picked up the phone and dialed 911. Her hands trembled slightly as she waited for someone to answer. The phone rang twice before a calm voice greeted her. 911, what's your emergency? Ella took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. Hi, my name is Ella. I need to report something unusual. It's about a stray dog named Max who keeps bringing keys to my shop every day. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Can you tell me more about it, ma'am? Ella explained everything, how Max had been visiting daily, placing the keys, and how she had recently discovered the letters and photographs buried near the oak tree. She described the emotional connection she felt with Max and her concern for his well-being, especially with the winter weather approaching. The operator listened patiently. I understand, Ella. It sounds like Max has a very important role in this situation. I'll dispatch a team to assist you. They can help you locate Tommy's family and ensure Max is safe. Ella felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you so much. I just want to help Max and find out what happened to Tommy. A few hours later, a police officer and an animal rescue team arrived at Ella's shop. They listened as Ella shared the story of Max and showed them the letters and photographs. The officer took notes and assured Ella that they would do everything they could to find Tommy's family. Meanwhile, the rescue team checked on Max, ensuring he was warm and had enough food. They could see the bond between Ella and the dog, recognizing the genuine care she had for him. The officer thanked Ella for her dedication and promised to keep her updated on any progress. As the team left, Ella felt a sense of hope. She knew they were one step closer to solving the mystery and reuniting Max with his long-lost friend. Over the next few days, Ella worked closely with the police, providing them with all the information she had gathered. The letters and photographs were sent to their headquarters for further investigation. Ella continued to care for Max, making sure he was comfortable and safe in her shop. One afternoon, a call came through. The police had found Tommy's family. They had been searching for years, holding on to the hope that Max would lead them back to their beloved dog and the truth about the burglary. The family was overjoyed to hear about the letters and the keys that Max had been bringing. Ella arranged a meeting at the corner shop, where Tommy's family could finally reunite with Max. When they arrived, there were tears and smiles as the family embraced Max, who wagged his tail happily, sensing the love and familiarity. It was a heartfelt reunion that Ella had hoped for. Tommy's parents thanked Ella for her kindness and dedication in helping them find Max and the truth behind the burglary. They shared stories of how Max had been their loyal companion, always by Tommy's side, even after the incident. The keys that Max had brought each day were the keys to their home, a symbol of the hope that never died. With Max now back with his family, Ella felt a bittersweet happiness. She was glad that Max had found his way home, but she would miss his daily visits. The bond they had formed was strong, and she knew she had made a difference in his life. As winter approached, Ella reflected on the incredible journey she had been on with Max. What started as a simple mystery had turned into a story of loyalty, hope, and the unbreakable bond between a boy and his dog. She felt grateful for the chance to help Max and to have been a part of his story. Max settled into his new home with Tommy's family, but he never forgot Ella. Sometimes, he would still visit the corner shop, bringing the keys as a way of saying thank you. Ella always welcomed him with open arms, knowing that their connection was something special and everlasting. In the end, Ella realized that sometimes, the smallest actions can lead to the most meaningful discoveries. Max had taught her about patience, empathy, and the importance of never giving up on those we care about. Their story was a reminder that love and loyalty can overcome even the greatest mysteries, bringing people and animals together in the most unexpected ways. Ella continued to run her corner shop with a warm heart, always remembering the stray dog who had changed her life. And whenever she saw Max approaching with the keys, she smiled, knowing that their bond would last forever, no matter where life took them. Ella felt a little nervous as she walked down Maple Street. She had been watching Max the stray dog bring keys to her shop every day, and she wanted to understand why he was doing it. Today, she decided to talk to her neighbors to see if anyone knew anything about the keys or Max's strange behavior. Her first stop was Mrs. Thompson's house. Mrs. Thompson was an elderly lady who loved to bake cookies and always had a kind word for everyone. Ella knocked on her door, and Mrs. Thompson welcomed her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ella," Mrs. Thompson greeted her. "What can I do for you today?" Ella took a deep breath and explained about Max bringing the keys every day. "Do you know anything about these keys, or why Max might be doing this?" she asked. Mrs. Thompson's smile faded a little as she listened. "Oh, those keys," she said softly. "I remember a little boy named Tommy who used to live around here. He loved his dog, Buddy, just like you love Max." Ella felt her heart race. "Tommy? Do you know what happened to him?" Mrs. Thompson nodded slowly. "A few years ago, Tommy's house was broken into. The burglars took many things, including Tommy's house keys. After that, Tommy and his family moved away. They never came back, and we didn't hear much about them after that." Ella felt a lump form in her throat. "Do you think Max knows something about Tommy's keys?" Mrs. Thompson looked thoughtful. "It's possible. Dogs have a way of remembering things, especially when they're tied to someone they love. Maybe Max is trying to help Tommy or keep the keys safe." Ella thanked Mrs. Thompson and continued her walk, her mind buzzing with questions. She stopped by Mr. Jenkins's garage next. Mr. Jenkins was a friendly man who always had a story to tell. "Hi, Mr. Jenkins," Ella greeted him. "Can I ask you something about these keys Max has been bringing?" Mr. Jenkins scratched his head. "I heard about that. Max has been coming by every day for weeks. I don't know much, but I think Tommy was my nephew. After the break-in, he was very sad. He loved Buddy so much." Ella felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Do you know if Tommy or his family are still around here?" Mr. Jenkins shook his head. "I haven't seen them since they moved. It was a tough time for everyone. Tommy didn't want to come back, but I'm sure he misses his old home and Buddy." Ella thanked Mr. Jenkins and walked back to her shop, feeling more determined to find out the truth. She decided to visit the local library next. Maybe there were old newspaper articles or records that could help her learn more about Tommy and the break-in. At the library, Ella found the librarian, Ms. Rivera, who was always eager to help. "Hi, Ms. Rivera. I'm looking for information about a boy named Tommy who lived on Maple Street a few years ago. His house was broken into, and his family moved away. Do you have any records or news articles about that?" Ms. Rivera nodded and led Ella to a section with old newspapers. They spent a while searching through the archives, and Ella felt a mix of hope and sadness with each story they read. Finally, they found an article about the break-in. The article was dated a few years back and had a picture of Tommy with his dog, Buddy. It talked about how the community came together to support the family after the burglary. Ella read the article carefully, her eyes filling with tears as she saw the picture of Tommy and Buddy smiling together. "This must be him," Ella whispered. "Do you think Max is Tommy's buddy?" Ms. Rivera looked at Ella with understanding. "It's very possible. Dogs have strong memories and bonds with their owners. If Max knew Tommy, he might be trying to bring the keys back to where Tommy feels safe." Ella felt a surge of emotion. She had to help Max and maybe bring some closure to Tommy's story. She decided to visit the place where Tommy used to live, hoping to find more clues. Walking up Maple Street, Ella saw the old house where Tommy had lived. It was still there, but the yard looked empty and overgrown. She stood in front of the house, holding the keys Max had brought her. She felt a deep sadness for Tommy and his family. As she looked around, Ella noticed a small garden in the backyard. It was clear that someone had been taking care of it recently. She knocked on the door, and to her surprise, it opened to reveal a young woman with kind eyes. "Hello," Ella greeted her softly. "My name is Ella. I used to live here, and I'm trying to find out more about Tommy. Do you know him?" The woman smiled gently. "Yes, I'm Lily. I'm Tommy's sister. It's been hard without him, but we've been trying to move on." Ella felt her heart ache for Lily and her family. I've noticed Max has been bringing keys to the shop every day. I think he might be trying to help you find something important." Lily looked surprised. "Max? I remember Buddy being very loyal. It's possible he's trying to reunite something with us. We never found all the keys after the break-in. Maybe Max is trying to bring them back." Ella nodded. "I kept the keys he brought, and I think they might be Tommy's. Could this help you in any way?" Lily's eyes filled with hope. "If these are Tommy's keys, it could mean he's trying to tell us something. Maybe he wants to come back or remind us of home." Ella felt a strong connection to Max and his mission. "I want to help. Maybe together, we can figure out what Tommy needs." Lily reached out and took Ella's hand. "Thank you, Ella. This means a lot to us. We've missed having Tommy around, and if Max is trying to help, then we should follow his lead." Ella smiled, feeling the weight of the story lift a little. "Let's work together to see what Max wants us to do. Maybe he's trying to bring Tommy's family back or help us find something important." As they stood there, holding the keys and thinking about what to do next, Ella realized how much this journey had connected her to Max and Tommy's story. She felt grateful for the stray dog who had brought so much meaning into her life and the lives of others. Together, Ella and Lily decided to search the house for any clues that might help them understand why Max was bringing the keys. They walked through the empty rooms, remembering the happy times when Tommy and Buddy used to play there. In the living room, they found a dusty old photo album. Lily carefully opened it, and they began to look through the pictures. There were photos of family gatherings, birthday parties, and, of course, many pictures of Tommy with Buddy. It was clear how much Tommy loved his dog. As they flipped through the album, they found a picture of Tommy and Buddy standing in front of the backyard garden, the same one Ella had seen earlier. Below the photo was a handwritten note that read, "Always remember where your heart is." Ella and Lily exchanged a glance, understanding that this was a clue. They looked around the house again and decided to explore the garden more closely. As they stepped outside, Ella noticed a small gate at the back of the garden that was slightly ajar. Curious, they pushed the gate open and walked into the garden. It was a beautiful space with colorful flowers and neatly arranged plants. In the center stood an old wooden bench, and behind it, there was a hidden compartment in the ground. Lily knelt down and started digging around the area while Ella watched closely. After a few minutes, Lily uncovered a small box buried in the soil. She opened it carefully and found a few more keys inside, along with a letter. Ella picked up the letter and read it aloud. "Dear Lily and Ella, if you're reading this, it means Max has found us. We never wanted to leave, but we had to for safety. These keys are important, and I hope they help you find peace. Remember, our home is always in your hearts. Love, Tommy." Tears welled up in Ella's eyes as she looked at Lily. "This is so touching. Max has been trying to bring us back to what was lost. He wanted to make sure the keys were returned to the right place." Lily hugged Ella tightly. "Thank you for believing in this. Max is truly special, and he helped us reconnect with our past." Ella felt a warm feeling in her heart. She looked at Max's empty spot at the front of the shop and realized how much the dog had meant to their journey. "We need to make sure Max is safe and has a home now that we've found out why he was bringing the keys." Lily nodded. "Yes, we should take care of him. He's been so loyal and brave, just like Buddy was." As they made their way back to the shop, Ella felt a sense of closure. She had helped uncover the story behind the keys and brought a little bit of peace to Tommy's family. Max had shown them that even in difficult times, hope and love could bring people together. When they reached the shop, Ella and Lily saw Max sitting patiently at the door, as if he had been waiting for them all along. They knelt down and petted him gently. Max wagged his tail, happy to see them. Ella smiled. "Thank you, Max. You did a wonderful job." Lily added, "You're a hero, Max. We're so grateful to you." Ella decided it was time to give Max the home he deserved. She talked to Lily about adopting him, knowing that together they could provide the love and care he needed. Lily agreed, feeling that Max had become a part of their family. As the days went by, Max settled into his new home with Ella and Lily. He was always there to greet them with a wagging tail and a happy bark. The bond between them grew stronger, and the story of Max's keys became a cherished memory in the community. Ella often thought about the day she decided to follow Max's mystery. She realized that sometimes the smallest actions could lead to the most meaningful connections. Max had brought not just keys, but hope and healing to those around him. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a beautiful shade of orange, Ella sat with Lily and Max on the bench in the garden. They watched as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. "Max," Ella said softly, "you've changed our lives in ways we never imagined. Thank you for bringing us together." Max rested his head on Ella's lap, looking up with eyes full of love and loyalty. It was clear that he had found his forever home, and so had Ella and Lily. Together, they had discovered the true meaning of friendship and the power of a loyal heart. As they sat there, Ella felt grateful for the stray dog who had brought so much joy and meaning into their lives. She knew that Max's story was one of love, hope, and the unbreakable bond between a dog and his family. And with that thought, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that they had all found their way back to what truly mattered. Ella watched as Max trotted up to her shop once again, the cold wind blowing through his scruffy fur. It was late autumn, and the leaves crunched under her feet as she approached the door. Max gently placed the old, rusty keys on the doorstep, his eyes hopeful but tired. Ella knelt down and picked up the keys, feeling a strange connection to the lonely dog. She had been keeping the keys for weeks, trying to understand why Max brought them every day. She had set up a camera to watch him, and now she was starting to piece together the mystery. Max always seemed to dig near the keys in the evening, as if trying to bury them. Ella's heart ached for the dog. She knew he didn't have a home, especially not in the cold months approaching. Ella decided it was time to help Max. She couldn't stand the thought of him wandering the streets without shelter, especially now that winter was coming. She took out her phone and dialed 911, her fingers trembling with a mix of fear and hope. She wanted to involve animal rescue and the police to find out more about the keys and maybe locate Tommy or his family. As she waited for someone to answer, Ella thought about Max. She remembered seeing him on the streets before, but he had never come to her shop. Something about today felt different. Maybe today was the day to finally solve the mystery and help Max find peace. The phone rang a few times before a voice answered. 911, what is your emergency? Ella took a deep breath. Hi, my name is Ella. I own the corner shop on Maple Street. Every day, a stray dog brings a set of keys to my door. I've been trying to figure out why, and I think it's important. I'd like to get some help to understand what's going on and to make sure the dog is safe. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Can you tell me more about the situation? The dispatcher asked. Ella explained how Max had been visiting every morning, placing the keys, and then digging near them in the evenings. She shared her concerns about the dog's well-being and her fear that he might be trying to communicate something important. The dispatcher listened carefully. We'll send animal control and the police to your location right away. They can help investigate and ensure that both you and the dog are safe. Ella felt a wave of relief wash over her. She thanked the dispatcher and hung up the phone. She looked back at Max, who was watching her with those big, trusting eyes. He seemed to understand that something was happening, and his tail gave a small, hopeful wag. Within minutes, the sound of sirens approached, growing louder as they neared her shop. Ella watched as two cars pulled up, one with the animal control logo and another with the police badge. Officers stepped out, along with a kind-looking animal handler. Hi, I'm Officer Martinez, one of the police officers said, approaching Ella. We got your call. Can you tell us what's been going on here? Ella nodded, feeling a bit nervous but determined. Yes, every day, this stray dog brings me a set of keys. He does this rain or shine. I've been trying to figure out why, and I set up a camera. I saw him dig near the keys each evening, like he was trying to bury them. Officer Martinez listened attentively. Have you seen anyone else around here who might know more about this dog or these keys? Ella shook her head. No, he just comes to my shop. I don't know his name or where he came from. I wanted to help him, but I didn't know what else to do. The animal handler approached Max gently. He seems like a good dog. We'll make sure he's okay and see if we can find any information about these keys. Ella handed over the keys to the handler, who examined them carefully. These look pretty old, he said. Let's see if there's anything we can find out about them. Meanwhile, Officer Martinez started taking notes. Ella, can you tell us if you've noticed anything unusual around your shop? Any other signs or items that might help us understand why Max is bringing these keys? Ella thought for a moment. There was a house nearby that used to be occupied by a family with a little boy named Tommy. A few years ago, the house was broken into, and the family moved away shortly after. I remember seeing Max around their house before they left. Officer Martinez's eyes lit up. That's very helpful. Do you have any contact information for Tommy's family? Maybe they're still looking for their keys or their dog. Ella shook her head. I don't have their number, but I can try to reach out to some neighbors who might know how to contact them. The police officer nodded. That would be great. In the meantime, we'll take these keys and see if we can trace where they belong. It might help us understand why Max has been bringing them to you. Ella felt a surge of hope. Maybe this was the connection Max needed to find his way. She watched as the animal handler gently coaxed Max into a carrier, ensuring he was safe and comfortable. Don't worry, Max, she whispered, patting his head. We're going to help you. As the responders worked, Ella couldn't help but feel a deep sense of responsibility. Max wasn't just a stray dog, he was trying to communicate something important. She wondered about Tommy and his family and what had happened to them after the break-in. The animal control officer approached her with a reassuring smile. We're going to do our best to find Tommy's family and reunite them with Max, if that's what he wants. Ella nodded, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. Thank you so much. I just want Max to be safe and happy. The police officers continued their investigation, making phone calls and checking the keys against local records. It didn't take long before one of the officers called out to Ella. We might have something. These keys belong to the old family on Oak Avenue, the Tompkins. Let's see if we can get in touch with them. Ella's heart raced. Do you think they still have the house? Or maybe they moved somewhere else? Officer Martinez pulled out his phone. Let's look them up. We'll find out where they are and let them know about Max. After a few tense minutes, Officer Martinez found a contact for the Tompkins family. He called the number, and soon a woman answered the phone. Hello, this is Sarah Tompkins, she said. Officer Martinez introduced himself and explained the situation. Hi Sarah, I'm Officer Martinez. We have a stray dog that has been bringing keys to a local shop every day. We believe these keys belong to your family's old home on Oak Avenue. We'd like to help reunite you with the dog, if possible. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Oh my goodness, Sarah replied, her voice shaking. Yes, those are our keys. Our dog, Buddy, went missing after the break-in a few years ago. We never stopped looking for him or our home. Ella felt a lump in her throat. This was the connection she had been hoping for. We believe Max might be trying to bring you the keys and possibly find Buddy. We'd like to help reunite you with your dog. There was a pause before Sarah spoke again. Thank you so much. We thought Buddy was gone forever. It means the world to us that you're helping. Officer Martinez arranged a meeting at Ella's shop. A few hours later, Sarah and her family arrived, along with Buddy, a cheerful golden retriever who wagged his tail furiously upon seeing Max. Sarah knelt down and hugged Max tightly. Buddy, you found your way back, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Max barked happily, licking her face. Ella watched the reunion, feeling a warmth in her heart. She had never imagined that her small act of kindness would lead to such a beautiful moment. Buddy's family thanked her profusely, their gratitude evident in their smiles and tears. "We've been searching for Buddy ever since the break-in," Sarah explained. "He was more than just a pet, he was our family. We never gave up hope, and it seems Max was our beacon." Ella smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "I'm so glad everything worked out. Max just wanted to help you find Buddy." Sarah nodded. "He did more than that. He brought us back together as a family. We're forever grateful." The animal control officers took Max to ensure he was safe and healthy, promising to find him a loving home. Ella felt a pang of sadness but also happiness knowing Max would be taken care of. As the evening approached, Ella and the Tompkins family sat outside the shop, sharing stories about Buddy and Max. The bond between them had been forged through this incredible journey, united by the love and loyalty of two special dogs. Ella realized that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the most meaningful connections. She looked at Max, now happily playing with Buddy, and felt a sense of peace. She knew that Max's daily visits had led to something wonderful, bringing together people and pets in a way she had never imagined. As the night fell, the shop was quiet once more, but the memories of the day lingered. Ella watched as the Tompkins family left, their hearts full and their bond stronger than ever. She knew that Max had found his purpose, and she had found a new appreciation for the little miracles that happen every day. The streets of Maple Street seemed a little brighter, knowing that love and loyalty had triumphed once again. Ella felt grateful for the chance to help Max and to witness the beautiful reunion of Buddy and his family. It was a day she would never forget, a day filled with hope, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between humans and their beloved pets.